Pam Fox, and I consider myself a leading expert on reversing a hiatal hernia naturally, and I'm streaming live today into several of the groups I belong to, and I'm going to be answering a question from Spencer Jacob. Excuse me, looking very red. Spencer Jacob says, has anyone tried fasting to see if it will help heal the hernia? Just a shot before I try it. So before I get started, I want to remind you all that I am not a doctor. If you want to hear or see my credentials, you can go to the About Me tab on my website, pamfox.org. Again, I am not a doctor, but I was able to discover a method to reverse my own hiatal hernia, and I'm helping other people do it every day. So this is a really great question about fasting and whether or not it can heal a hiatal hernia. And so I do have a few things I want to say about that. The first being is to understand that when it comes to fasting, first of all, two different things. We have rest and digest that go hand in hand, and we also have resting and healing go hand in hand. So when you remove the digestion from that, then the body can really dedicate its energy to healing. And so there is benefit from fasting. There's great benefit, healing benefit from fasting. Spencer wants to know, he wants to try, doesn't mention long-term fasting or intermittent fasting. So these are two different forms of fasting. And of course, long-term fasting typically should be done under the medical supervision of your doctor. And I am fascinated by a clinic in Santa Rosa, California called True North Health Center, and that's what they specialize in, is medically supervised water fasting. People will go there for a week, for 2 weeks, for 30 days, and even longer to help them heal their conditions through medically supervised water fasting. And the reason it's so important to do long-term fasting under medical supervision is because a lot can go wrong when you are abstaining from eating, right? So if you're doing it under medical supervision, they can watch you and they can adjust accordingly if need be. So it's very risky to do long-term fasting, for more than, say, 48 hours without medical supervision, particularly if you're really sick. So my cheeks are so red, it's really hot in here. So that's one thing to consider. Now, intermittent fasting, for those of you that are unfamiliar with that, it's where you have a feeding period and you have a fasting period, and you are lengthening your fasting period. So for example, you might fast all day and then and then you begin your feeding period. Maybe at 3:30 you have a snack, and then you eat dinner at 5:30. So your feeding period would be between 3:30 and 6:30, just as an example. And then your fasting would be, you wouldn't eat anything else after 6:30 until the next day at 3:30. And so you have a very long fasting period and a short feeding period. And again, the reason it's beneficial for healing is because we're lengthening that fasting period. We're not putting any food into the system, and that just gives the body more energy to devote to healing. And for the obvious reason, you're not putting any food in that will repetitively injure the digestive tract. So particularly if your diet isn't very healthy, then every time you eat, you could potentially be injuring your digestive tract and creating more inflammation. And if you've got any type of gastric condition, whether it's GERD or hernia or anything else, that long-term chronic inflammation is not helping. It's not helping the matter. And in order to eliminate that inflammation, fasting can be a great treatment or avenue for that. So I do recommend intermittent fasting over long-term water fasting, unless you're doing the long-term fasting under medical supervision. So at the end of this live, I am going to lead an exercise tutorial. One of the exercises that I teach is really beneficial for a number of reasons. So we'll get more into that later. But what I want to talk about next, two things. So first of all, when we fast, and this is something you really have to keep in mind and you must understand if you're going to try fasting with a hiatal hernia. Okay, so when we fast, you guys have all experienced probably hunger pains. The body is communicating with you that it's hungry and that it's time to eat. It's going to give you, sensations of pain maybe or discomfort. And this is simply how our, humanity has survived. As lazy as we are, we wouldn't eat nearly as often as we do if it weren't for the pain and discomfort we experience when we're hungry, right? So this is just a life-saving mechanism, that pain and discomfort we feel when we're hungry. And what you need to understand, anatomically speaking, is when the stomach itself, the organ of the stomach, when it's hungry, when it's actually hungry, when it's empty and it hasn't eaten for a while, it will contract, okay? So the tissues of the stomach are known as smooth muscle tissue, and all that means, same things with the esophagus, is that smooth muscle will contract on its own. It will pulse and vibrate to move that food downward, always be moving the contents downward. And when the stomach is hungry, it will do that same thing. It will contract, it will squeeze, and it will, again, the body will send you that message of pain and discomfort that it's hungry. But what you have to understand with a hiatal hernia, so here's our hiatal hernia. So when this stomach is hungry and it begins to create those contractions, you have to kind of picture, if you've ever heard of shrinkage, you can think of the stomach as doing this. Right, so it's contracting, and it actually will move upward. And so when you have a hiatal hernia, when we're trying to reverse a hiatal hernia or heal a hiatal hernia, and now our stomach is doing this, it's moving where? It's moving upward. We want it to move down, right? We're trying to reverse a hiatal hernia. That means we're trying to get the stomach to move down and out of that herniated position. And so, I didn't personally speak to somebody who went to True North, but I was reading a testimony for somebody who went to True North with a hiatal hernia, with GERD, and she was miserable the whole time she was there. Now, I'm fascinated by True North, and I go onto YouTube, and I've looked at several testimonies and stories of people who have gone there, and it's incredible the healing that people experience there, because again, they're abstaining from eating food, and that just gives their body time to heal. And for many people, it's kind of like, they call it kind of like a resetting. And so they have that time to heal, they get the inflammation to go away. And then when they reintroduce food, they reintroduce healthy foods, maybe bland foods. Maybe they just eat some steamed squash for their first few meals, or, raw watermelon or something like that. And they do really well. There was one person in particular that went there for rheumatoid arthritis, and after 30 days, she was symptom-free from 30 days of water fasting. But as soon as they reintroduced that food, the swelling came back, the pain came back. So she was an example of someone that just had such extreme food intolerances and such a damaged and leaky gut that even after the 30 days when they reintroduced the food, the symptoms came right back. But this other woman who went there with the hiatal hernia and the GERD, she said she was miserable the whole time. She was symptomatic the whole time. And this is why I believe, is because when you're hungry, that stomach is going to do this. It's going to come up and just be supported in that herniated position instead of relaxing and moving downward. Okay? And so the exercise I'm going to be sharing at the end of this live is one of the things it does is promotes that stomach to relax and move downward. So stay tuned for that. It's coming right up. So the one other thing I wanted to talk about is just a tip if you are going to try intermittent fasting, and that is to bring your focus to gut bacteria and to understand, and this is such a new field that I'm also very fascinated in, but there's really it's hard to teach about gut bacteria and microbiome because there's just very little that's known at this point. But the best way I can explain it is, we want to have a very diversified number of bacteria that live in our gut, right? We want to have a lot of different types of healthy gut bacteria. And those healthy bacteria feed on fiber, Okay, and where does fiber come from in our diet? Well, it comes from plant foods. All right, so when we eat a diet that is very high in plant foods, we are supporting that healthy gut bacteria. So when we begin to have, these hunger pains when we're hungry because we're fasting, if we can make sure that we have a healthy gut flora, that's going to minimize a little bit that sensation of being hungry. So you've probably all experienced maybe eating a meal and then feeling hungry shortly after. And that can be for a number of reasons. It could be because your meal was nutrient deficient. It could be because it was calorie deficient, but it could also be because you don't have a nice healthy balance of gut flora within your digestive tract. And so the tip is to try drinking a little bit of kombucha during your water fast or during your intermittent fasting. So during your fasting period, when you start to get those hunger pains, you can try drinking maybe 4 or 6 ounces of a really good quality kombucha. Now, there is an exception to this, and that would be, for people who really have severe GERD and haven't really effectively moved the stomach down yet with their hiatal hernia. If you've got acid coming up and it's coming up with that kombucha, it's going to be painful and it's going to burn. So, this may work for some and it may not work for others. But I think that's a great tip. It works really well for a lot of people because there's a lot of good healthy probiotics in kombucha. So you'll be helping to support those microbes within the gut when you're fasting. So that's my tip, and I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to go ahead and lead a tutorial now. This exercise is great because it does a couple of different things in terms of reversing your hiatal hernia. One, it raises your diaphragm up, which is what we want when we're trying to reverse a hiatal hernia. So if your stomach is lodged in your diaphragm and you can move your diaphragm up, that's going to help create that separation. 2 is it helps move the stomach down. Okay, and again, that's what we want when we're trying to reverse a hiatal hernia. We want to take away that hernia. We want to unherniate that hernia, and we want to strengthen our hiatus, right? We want to tighten our hiatus, which is the hole that the stomach is obstructing through. All right. So this exercise does all of those things. And it also stretches the abdominal wall and opens up the abdominal cavity, which is so important. So every breath we take, our diaphragm is moving up and down, right? And so when our diaphragm moves down, if our abdominal wall is tight, and keep in mind, why would our abdominal wall be tight? Well, for a lot of reasons. Vanity, pulling in your stomach, pulling in your gut all the time. Stress, it's a response mechanism to stress. Those abs will contract and create abdominal crowding, which supports and pushes your hernia up. Being in pain, being cold. There's a long list, and I talk about these a lot in my various different videos. But those abdominal muscles contract for a lot of reasons, and we never stretch our abdominal muscles. And so again, when your diaphragm moves up and down with every single breath of your entire life, if those abs are pulled in tight, then as your diaphragm comes down and your abs are pulled in, it's creating all of that abdominal crowding. And so with a hiatal hernia, you can just imagine your stomach is just getting squished with every breath, squished, and further supporting and encouraging that herniation instead of supporting the movement downward. So this exercise opens up the abdominal cavity and allows the abdominal muscles to relax and stretch, which we need to master learning how to do. We need to get over this idea that we constantly need to be contracting and pulling in our abs, because that is very non-beneficial for your organs, particularly for a hiatal hernia. Okay, so I am going to move my chair, and I'm going to come into a reclining position, and I hope as you're watching you'll do this with me. The reason we come into a reclining position, and you can do this in whatever position is comfortable for you. You can lie down, you can stand up, but the reason the reclining position is so beneficial for this is if you watch my chest right here, I'm going to arch my back a little bit and recline. So what's happening to my hands? They're moving up. I'll do it one more time. Reclining back, hands move up. So when your rib cage moves up, it brings your diaphragm with it because your diaphragm is attached to your rib cage. So just by coming into a reclining position, my diaphragm is going to move up. So just right there, we're moving that diaphragm. For those of you with hiatal hernia, we're moving that diaphragm up. So the other thing we want to do is master relaxing the abs. And for most people, when they first start this exercise, they don't get it, they can't connect, they don't know if they're doing it right. And so to that, I would just encourage you to just practice it. Do it every day. Practice it and do it every day. You will eventually make the connection, and you will eventually start stretching and regaining flexibility within your abdominal muscles, and you will eventually really start to notice the benefit of this and how wonderful it feels to open up that abdominal cavity and just allow those organs to come down and relax. All right, so reclining position, place your hands, you guys can't see me very well, I'm gonna go back a little bit. Place your hands on your belly and connect with your belly and relax your abdominal muscles. And just relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. Try to just come into a normal breathing pattern and really just look for tension anywhere in the body and begin to just relax with every breath. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is connect with the sound of my voice as I give verbal cues. You can close your eyes if you'd like. And now I would ask you to bring your focus and your attention to your abdominal muscles. Notice the connection of your hands to your belly, and really bring your focus to those muscles and relax them. Even if you can't, just try. And now bring your focus and attention to your breath. As you breathe in, try to connect with the sound and the vibration of your own breath. And as you breathe out, connect with the sound and the vibration of your breath. I know that sounds silly, but it's really important. Let's take another breath. Breathe in, connect with the sound and the vibration of your breath. And breathe out, connecting with the sound and the vibration of your breath. Good. Take inventory once more. Check, make sure your shoulders and your jaw are relaxed. And bring your focus back to the belly and relax the abs even deeper. So continuing with this breath pattern, connecting with the sound and the vibration of the breath, we're next going to bring our attention back to the abs, and as we breathe in, we're going to use the abdominal muscles to push outward on our hands. So breathing in, pushing outward on our hands, expanding the belly, and breathe out, exhaling, 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 keeping the abdominal muscles relaxed. Remember to stay in the reclining position. Inhale, expand the belly. Exhale, deflate the lungs. Relax the shoulders. Inhale, expand the belly. Exhale, deflate the lungs. Relax the shoulders. Inhale, expand the belly, pressing on the hands. Exhale, deflating the lungs, deflating the lungs, deflating the lungs. Keep the abs relaxed, and at no time contract your abdominal muscles. Breathe in, connect with the vibration of the breath, almost like you're snoring. Expand the belly, and exhale, relax, 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 relax. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Don't tighten the abs. Keep yourself in the reclining position. You can arch your back a little bit if that helps. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax, relax, relax. Keep that belly relaxed, deflating the lungs, deflating the lungs. We'll do a couple more. Inhale. Exhale. We're really going to lengthen the exhalation here. Breathe out. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Keep those abs relaxed. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Good, and one more, breathe in. And exhale, 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 exhale. So I hope that kind of gives you the idea, and this is something, you know, as long as you're not taking super deep breaths that make you practically pass out, that's not the idea. The idea is to really begin to stretch those abs in a position that raises your diaphragm and allows the stomach to move down. This is just one exercise in a series of 10 that I teach that helps support moving that stomach down. But it's one of my favorites because it does so many different important things in terms of supporting the reversal of a hiatal hernia. All right, well, I hope you guys found this helpful. Again, if you want to find out more information about me, it's at my website, pamfox.org. I try to come on here and answer your questions, so you can post questions within the groups, or you can post a question below, whether you're watching live or on the replay, and maybe I'll do a video to one of your questions, or I'll certainly try to get back and answer it in the comments section below. So that's it. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and happy fasting.